Welcome to the PT Coffee Cast, a podcast helping coffee-infused clinicians elevate their practice by realizing the tools they already possess. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the PT Coffee Cast, brought to you by The Movement. My name is Dalton, and alongside me today is my beautifully bearded friend, William. William, how are we doing today?
Doing amazing. You know why?
Why?
I've got my astronaut shirt on.
Yeah,
How can you be in a bad mood and wear this shirt?
that's true. I haven't seen you bust that shirt up in a while, so when I saw you walk in today with that on, I was like, today is going to be a day.
I really have like an interesting combination of clothes on, you know?
You do.
Lululemon pants, collared astronaut shirt on, running hat, running shoes.
You're pretty much ready for anything.
Exactly. Whatever's thrown at me, land or space, I'm ready to go.
It's always good to be adaptable.
Exactly.
But we're going to get into this episode, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you aren't subscribed to the podcast, make sure you head over to your podcast platform and subscribe there, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, so you don't miss out on any of our episodes. If you guys want to catch this video episode, you can head over to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can see Will's beautiful astronaut shirt and his Lulu pants and his running hat and his running shoes, his adaptability. We'd love to have you there. You can subscribe. We're on a mission to get 500 subscribers this year, so you can help us fulfill on that goal. And then if you guys want to check out more on the mentorship, you can head over to themovementmentorship.com. Check that out. We have all things mentorship for you there. But we are going to dive into today's episode, which was inspired by a quote that I saw that I'm going to read to you guys. I've heard this quote before, and then it kind of got brought up like multiple times this week in like a podcast that I was listening to, and then a post I saw on Instagram. Was it like social media tracking me and listening to me and just showing me the same thing? Maybe. Or was it just meant to be? I'm going to go with it was meant to be. So I want to share the quote with you guys. It's a quote from John Wellborn. He's one of the founders of Power Athlete HQ. If you guys haven't heard of Power Athlete, you should check them out. They put a ton of great stuff out on strength conditioning. Side note, the first ever CrossFit workout that I did was put out by John Wellborn when they used to be CrossFit Football, which was their original business before they moved into Power Athlete. And that was my very first entry to CrossFit. So, fun fact.
Very cool.
But the quote is, training is like moving a big ass pile of dirt. Some days you use a shovel, some days you use a spoon, but as long as you move some dirt every day, you're headed in the right direction. And I thought that quote was awesome. I think like you can take training and you can replace that with pretty much anything. You could replace it with life. You could replace it with business. You could replace it with rehab. Whatever you want to replace that first word with, I think you can. And it very much encompasses life, to be honest. And the reason why I brought it up to Will and I thought it would be a good conversation is there's like two ways that I think it's applicable to healthcare and like what we do here. I think there's a client aspect and then there's a clinician aspect. Before I dive into that, do you have any feelings on that quote?
I think I have some feelings for sure. But maybe we can just talk about it, and I'll probably have some. I don't have anything to like add to it right now.
I just didn't want to like keep talking and not offer you the opportunity to offer your input. You know, we are co-hosting this show together.
I really appreciate you thinking about me. I think we can bring it into the like that quote comes into the rehab world so well though.
Yeah, and so like, you know, when it comes to the client side of things, I think this idea of like some days you're going to be using a spoon, some days you're going to be using a shovel very much shows up when you're on the journey of an injury, and some days you are going to be feeling really bad and not like you're moving forward and like you can't do much. And then some days you're going to be feeling really great. You're going to be able to do a lot more. You're going to be able to crush your workouts. You're going to be able to hit all the exercises that you were prescribed by your therapist, and you're going to feel really good. And learning how to navigate both of those are super important. And I think like, you know, on the days where you're using quote unquote a spoon, it's like it might just mean that showing up and doing a 5-minute walk because that's all you have in you that day with your back pain, that is moving the needle forward. Just like a day where you're using your shovel and you're feeling really, really good and you're crushing your deadlifts, your Nordic hamstring curls, your glute bridges, your farmer carries to improve like your back pain, because that's also moving the needle forward. What doesn't move the needle forward is not, you know, showing up and taking steps in the right direction. And if you're just stagnant or you're going backwards, like you're not going to get to where you want to go. And just a lot of days it's going to look a little bit different. And so I thought like that was super relatable to the client journey, and something that's good to remind myself as a clinician who's working with people that like sometimes that's going to be the case.
Now, I think what's really cool about that analogy is if you have a huge pile of dirt and you're taking a spoon and you're moving dirt, you're going to look at that pile and be like, it's the same.
Right.
Up until a certain point. And I think that's really relevant with going through an injury, because if you increase 3 reps on a movement, your pain's not going to suddenly be better. You're not going to notice that much of a difference, but you are moving yourself forward. And I think an analogy like that really helps to show that. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, you can be making progress or you can be staying where you are. Right? You have to trust that eventually that process is going to pay off. Eventually you look at that pile of dirt and you're like, okay, that's looking not so big. Right? And in our case, it's, I'm actually noticing I can reach up to the shelf and my shoulder wasn't hurting. Right? But that's not going to happen immediately. And so it helps like you visualize, oh, okay, I just need to move myself forward in some way. That can be more reps, that can be, you know, a little bit heavier, a little bit higher intensity, that can be more exercises than I did before, that can be doing more in my daily activities that I did previously. So there's lots of different ways that you can try to like invest in that change, but you have to trust that it's happening even if you're not feeling it or noticing it in a meaningful way right then.
Yeah, and it's better to move some dirt with a little, like with a spoon or the shovel, than only move it when you feel like you're going to use the shovel. And I think a lot of times that happens too, right? And like we only do it when we're feeling like really, really good and we move a big chunk, but then we don't move a big chunk for another 2 weeks. And if you are just consistently moving bits, some days it's a massive chunk, some days it's a little scoop, eventually you're going to see that pile move. And that's that idea of like consistency, and how that compounds over time. And it brings another quote to my mind that actually I have written on this paper as well, is like, it's better to be consistently good than occasionally great, was a quote that I heard from Jeff Cunningham, who's a run coach. And it's the same idea. It's like, it's way better to be consistently good and showing up on a consistent basis week in and week out and showing up and doing what you can, versus like occasionally having a great outcome or a great like showing up day. It's like one day you come out and you run a crazy great workout, but then you don't run any workouts for 2 weeks. It's like, what is that doing, right? Where if like you're just consistently being good, this is kind of the same idea.
Yeah, and I mean, I think our clients really need to be told this often, right? Because even for me, I'm a physio and I know this, but I've recently been dealing with knee pain with running, and I really had to, when it initially started, I was running like a 1 minute run, 4 minute walks. Felt like I was doing nothing. And it wasn't enjoyable, or it didn't feel like I was investing in my ability to run bar and be, but I have that knowledge and awareness that no, that's exactly what I have to do, and it's actually going to compound over time and get me to where I'm at now, which is running 40 kilometers a week.
Yeah.
Right? And I even struggled with that as someone who is in my position. And so you could see how someone could be like, how is this isometric going to help me with my pain? I don't see it, right? So we really need to be frequent and use analogies like this to help people see that point, right?
Yeah, and I think like it's our job, a big part of our job is to show them that and constantly remind them that and figure out how many different ways that we can use our skill sets from a communication standpoint, from an exercise standpoint, from an education standpoint, from the way that we set up like the space and the way that we keep them accountable. Like it's our job to really help them show that idea of like moving the dirt and like constantly reminding them, because it's very hard when you're in it to look out from an outside perspective and try to take yourself out of it. And I think what makes rehab even harder than something like a performance goal is that pain is there and pain is present and it sucks and you get annoyed by it and it might be impacting things. Whereas like if you're not in pain, you're on a journey of performance, it's like you have the struggles, but like you're able to function the way that you want to function. And so I think that's what makes that rehab even harder, which is why I think it's even more important to like have people realize something like this analogy.
Yeah, and this is really strongly relates because like what you just said, it's not sexy
No.
to be, and with this too, it's like, okay, you cleared the pile of dirt. What are you left with? You're kind of left with not that much.
You just got another pile of dirt here.
And you're just at baseline now. And it's
Yeah.
like, if you just get, to get rid of your pain or to put this work in and get the reward, it's like, okay, now you can do what you always were able to do.
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing to commit to.
But the key is, and I want to jump back to what we talked about maybe 2 episodes ago about the mindset, is we as a profession put the value of what we do on the outcome. We don't put it on the process and the mindset and the what you're developing when you go through rehab. And we're not taking the time to teach people and very much highlight those skills that you're building, because that is what you're learning when you take that pile of dirt and you move it from one part of the yard to the other part of the yard. It's the journey between that end outcome and the start, and all the lessons that you've learned and all the knowledge that you've gained, that is the true value. And that is what, if you take that with you on the next journey to move the next pile of dirt to the next part of the yard, that's going to be a lot easier to do that because you've gained all of these principles and this knowledge. And that is what I think is the key to success in rehab and what is going to have the most impact on an individual. But what we have to fight against is like anything in this world is like this big, sexy, flashy thing that's going to take all your issues away with 1 or 2 snaps of a finger, because we just want instant reward and instant reduction in pain, which I get. I fall prey to this all the time, just like everyone else does. But it's our job as professionals to help people avoid that and not put that up on a pedestal as like the way out.
But then on the other side of the coin, as clinicians, we can get into this mindset as well, because you're going to have days where your clients are all coming in, not doing well, and you feel like, I don't know anything. I'm like not a good clinician.
Yeah, like nothing's going your way.
But those might be that we're taking the spoon and and all you're doing is maybe trying to plant some seeds with some of your clients. You're trying to have some conversations to get them thinking differently. You are, putting in the legwork where 3 sessions down the road, things might be moving a little more well forward, right? And so I think we can use that analogy on ourselves and recognize that just because people weren't crushing all their outcomes doesn't mean today wasn't a valuable day.
Yeah. And how within that can you even look at it for yourself as like, because let's be frank, like when that stuff's happening, you are very frustrated. You probably feel a little bit imposterous. You probably feel insecure, like you're frustrated. You have all of these emotions, but it's like, how can you manage that and still deliver something that is of value and effective into the standards that you have set for yourself? Like there's a lot that you can grasp as an individual in that moment that is going to be really impactful for you personally, outside of like, what can I also just give to this client that is not in a good place, and just seems like everyone's not in a good place today.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think it was the great 50 Cent who said,
well, we're just dropping a lot here. Yeah, let's go.
Life, there wouldn't be pleasure if there wasn't for pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
like that?
I do. Do you know the rest of the
lyric?
It's true,
right? It's like, I don't know. Let's not go there. But, and I mean, it's like, you're not going to feel that much meaning out of what you do if you don't overcome like that struggle with your clients, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's really all about, is like when you're 6 months down the road and you realize that client went through that difficult part where there was uncertainty, you weren't sure, like it wasn't getting better, you had these conversations, you kept them on track, and then 6 months later they're doing what they love and they're pumped and they're so happy and they've learned through the process. Like, it's because you went through all that other stuff that you get that meaning as a clinician later on.
Yeah.
So that's what that can do for you, to be a bit more like selfish about it, is like, you don't want it to just be like, here's the 3 exercises and everybody's just better magically.
Yeah.
It's hard, and that's why it's awesome when people get better.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I think that's good. That's kind of like, that's all I want to talk about.
I never thought I would be bringing 50 Cent into the mix.
I'm glad that we did it.
Bonus points if you know what song that's from and you DM us.
Yeah, yes. Bonus points for sure. But yeah, that's all we got, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope maybe you use that quote or that analogy. It's a good analogy. You could draw this on the board too. I like it. I'm probably going to bring it in.
Just drop a pile of dirt.
Yeah, and a little spoon, a little shovel, a little stick man or woman, and them moving it.
Flare-ups are like a little bit more dirt's being put on the pile.
Yeah.
You can get as in-depth as you want.
I like it. But yeah, if you guys aren't subscribed to the podcast, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any episodes that we put out, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can see the video episodes that we put out on a weekly basis. We also put out some other videos there around movement, rehab related stuff that you guys might be interested in. And then if you guys are interested in learning more about the mentorship, you can head over to themovementmentorship.com, check that out, and find all of that information there. But that is all we got for today, guys. As always, stay caffeinated. Peace.